I don't know about our colleagues in the rest of the world, but here when you teach in Australia, you need to check which state you are in to know which style of handwriting you're going to teach. Hi everyone, welcome to Talk and Chalk. I'm Beck. I'm an assistant principal in Southwest Sydney. This is my YouTube channel where I share my tips and bits of advice on education and teaching. It's not the be all and end all, it's just me, my experiences, and me sharing what works, I guess, in my surroundings and my environment. Today I'm going to be reflecting on some things that I've been teaching throughout the beginning of my career and sort of taking you to where I'm at now, and our topic today is handwriting. Before we get into it though, I'm going to remind everyone that just below in the description is all my links to social media, and I'm also going to be sharing a link to a Google folder that I've created with a ton of handwriting resources for you. It doesn't actually look like a ton when you get into it, but when you open up files, some of them have multiple pages. I've been teaching since 2003, and every year that I've taught handwriting in some capacity. This year is the first year that I haven't, which is very strange. I'm off class. I'm in a mentoring sort of support role, doing various things with my teams. So I haven't had that opportunity this year. Although I think this year I would struggle because this would be the first year that I'm without a particular software system. We've been using Smart Notebook previously, and I haven't got that this year. So if you guys have got suggestions out there on what you're using in terms of technology to do handwriting lessons, pop them in the comments below for anyone else that's watching this so they can have a look at what you're using and what's working for you. I'm going to go a bit old school though. When it comes to handwriting, I feel like handwriting is a bit of a lost art. My mum has the most beautiful handwriting you've ever seen. It's like calligraphy and it's natural. She doesn't have to sit there and concentrate hard on it. It's natural. And I remember her telling me when I was growing up that when she was growing up, she used to practice every afternoon so she would have beautiful handwriting. And it worked because even now her handwriting is just amazing. Getting a postcard from my parents when they're traveling around Australia is a treat just because it looks beautiful. It looks like something that's out of a movie with that type of handwriting. And she did writing for our wedding invitations and things like that as well because it's that beautiful, and it's just handwriting. That's all it is. She did study calligraphy a little bit. I remember when I was a kid she had the books and everything and was doing it, but even before that it was beautiful handwriting. So when I started teaching, it was blackboards, and I'm pretty sure they were the same blackboards that had been installed in the 70s. They were huge, and they had on them the permanent lines. I don't know if they were marked with text or if they were made that way, but there were black lines on there that almost faded into the background, but you could see it enough, and they were perfect for teaching handwriting on. So when I started teaching, that's what I used. However, I did go over the top of it with chalk so that you could see those lines standing out. And what I did was similar. I've got my little mini board here today to this, where I would have the dotted line, then the straight line, dotted line, dotted line. And obviously the writing goes on this line here, with those dotted lines there being where letters go up and letters go down. So what I want to do for you is I'd like to model what I do in a handwriting lesson, keeping in mind this is just what works for me. However, and I know I'm going against the grain here when I say this, when it comes to teaching explicit handwriting, and I'm not talking about handwriting activities, I'm not talking about embedding it in other things, I'm talking about explicit handwriting teaching, Talk and Chalk. No, wait, it's the other way around. That's my channel. Chalk and Talk. Chalk and Talk. It's efficient when it comes to teaching handwriting. And I'll get into that in detail, and you might disagree. That's fine. You teach the way that works for you. But for me, when it comes to this, I found getting the kids to all sit down, all be at a table, all facing the front, paying attention with their book, with their pencil or pen, whatever it is you're using, no rubbers, ready to do handwriting. And I would do this at least once a week. And depending on the grade that you've got and the behavior of the kids that you've got, anywhere between 15 and 25 minutes. Once you've got them trained up in the expectations of how you run a handwriting lesson, 15 minutes flat should be plenty. Now you get the handwriting books, and I don't have any with me at home unfortunately, but they're like the half exercise books that have lines similar to that. Some of them are in plain blue, and you can get some of them that have the blue and red lines. So the dotted lines would be the red and the straight lines would be the blue, so it stands out more for those kids so they can see exactly, you know, where they're meant to be putting those letters. And they set them down, they open them up, and my first thing is always the date. Always the date. long date. Practice the day of the week, the day, what day of the month it is, the month and the year. And this it's just habit forming, because then it's a good way for the kids to start. They know the expectation, they know it's always going to be there. It helps them remember time, practicing their calendar. It's a good way to engage in conversation about the seasons. Hey, it's the 1st of September today. We're doing handwriting on the first day of spring. Yay! And then you can tie a theme into that if you want to. But when they do that, I always make sure I model it first. And it's good because when you model the date, you're getting everything in there. Chances are there's always going to be a capital. There's going to be numbers. You get to practice your, first, second, third, fourth. You get those in there. So you've got, maths tying in with it as well. And there's always going to be letters that go up and down. So it's good modelling for the start of it. And I do it on the board first, neat and tidy. I just put it up there. I don't talk through the date because that's not the explicit focus for the lesson, but I put the long date up there, the kids do it, and then I walk around and check that they've done it. This is the spot where I can go, no, you started in the wrong spot. You need to start to the left. No, this one needs to be at the top. Or go and reinforce. That's great. You've gone top to bottom lines. You've touched the top line. You've touched the bottom line. It's not too small. It's not too big. Whatever your focus is. And the focus is going to be different depending on what grade you've got as well. And now I did the same thing regardless of what format I was using. So I went from Blackboard to whiteboard to interactive whiteboard. So it didn't matter which tool I was using to teach this. I still modeled that way. Date first, walk around, check, feedback, 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 straight away on top of it. And the great thing about this activity is that handwriting is achievable. Even for kids with specialist needs in their hands can still achieve this. There are ways that you can differentiate it, even though essentially it's still kind of the same throughout the whole class. So, I mean, I've had students before that have had to have different types of finger grips, that have had to have slanted boards, that have had to do this upright, depending on their needs, obviously. They're still doing the same thing. They're sitting, they're looking, they're writing. That's it. No talking, no nothing. I tell my kids the expectation is this should be the neatest book you will ever own at school, because the focus is always letter formation. I don't care about your spelling. I don't care about making a sentence structure. I don't care about your punctuation. Letter formation. That is our learning intention. That is our goal. And the success criteria obviously comes down to the particulars of what you're doing in that lesson. Now, I'm going to show you as well an example of programming I did back in the day, like 2013, 14, I think I chucked in there. Now that has changed recently to more responsive programming. So I'm not necessarily going through particular letter formations or just going through the alphabet. It was based on what we were learning at that time. So if there was something we were doing at the time that really tied in well with the letter A, then I would do the letter A. Or if there were sounds, doing, CH sounds, then I would do CH. And that would be the focus for the handwriting, and I would tie that in. And handwriting ties into everything. You have it in your reading group rotations, independent activities, doing it in the sand, doing it with your finger, doing it on the iPad, using a stylus on the iPad. All those things. I'm talking about the explicit handwriting lesson where you are out the front and the kids are sitting at their tables. Sorry, I've got my trusty notebook here, so I just want to make sure I go through my notes there. So as they're sitting there though, you're also looking at their pencil grip, finger grip, looking at where it is on the pencil, looking at how their books are physically laid on the table. Some kids write like this. Some kids have got their chairs turned. Some are slouched. This is the point where you realize that chair is actually too big or too small for that student. I need a cushion or a different bit of furniture. And you'll be able to correct those things as you go throughout. And I've got a picture in the Google Drive as well to be able to show you. And I stick it in the book as well. Do you look like the picture? There's a picture of how to hold things and do it. When we start that lesson though, so we've done the date, we start the lesson, let's go with the letter A. Let's say the focus today is the letter A. And this can be even for year 6. Just because they're year 6 doesn't mean they don't need to revisit the letter A and how to do it using cursive. And I model it. I'm going to model this on the board. I'm going to model what a bad one looks like and why it is a bad one. We're going to draw it in the air with our finger. We're going to say it as we do it. We go around, down, up, and line. Around, down, up, line, flick, whatever it is. I've realized now I'm doing it backwards for you guys. Can I do it A? Not really well. But when I'm doing it with the class, like I'm I'm doing it the same way as them. But then I'll get kids out to come out. You come out and show me what you think a good A looks like. Come here and show me what a bad A looks like. You show me the worst A that you can make, and make it a bit of fun. And get them out there to show it that. And I'll have the lines on the board for them to do it. We touch the top, we touch the bottom. Why is it important for those parts to be the same size? And why is it important for someone to be able to understand what you're reading? Why do I need to make it neat and tidy? Is it about being perfect, or is it about so I can communicate my ideas clearly to you? Imagine if I wrote all of this stuff on the board and you had no idea what I was talking about. That wouldn't be very good communication, would it? And I always tell my kids, if you can say it, you can write it. And that comes down to content as well as structure. If I can say up, down, up, line, then I can draw up, down, up, line, circle, line, flick, whatever. A lot of people have, poems and rhymes and riddles and everything that go along with it. If you can say it, you can write it. And really talk it through. So I don't just model it once. I use this and I model it again and again and again. So for example, if we are doing the letter A, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to do this. Turn this around a little bit. I don't want to lose my coochie Kobe there. How cute is he? Okay, so, and this is the weird thing when it comes to modeling. Our kids aren't writing with chalk and a board up against a wall. They're doing it on their book and their table and holding it. They're holding it like this. I'm holding mine like this. But either way though, I'm going to say to them, okay guys, I'm going to make sure that I'm touching the top line, I'm touching the bottom line, and I'm going to bring it back down. So I'm going up and touch, down, nice little ovalish shape, and my straight line. Now watch guys, I'm going to do one that I think is going to be a mistake. Now I've done my oval and my line, but why isn't that one as good as that one? And then someone in the class will say, it's not touching the top line. That's right, you know what, but I'm not going to rub it out because mistakes are proof I'm trying. I'm going to edit that. I'm just going to put a little cross because I know I can do better than that. And I'm going to do another one. And this is where your kids always have the chance to succeed. Guarantee you they'll get 1 on that line. They might have 6 like this. And then they'll have that perfect one finally. Oh, at the end, which you can't see. I only ever do 6. No more, no less. I tell them exactly 6 on the line every single time. 6, 6, 6. And as I walk around, because I should be doing it faster than them on the board, I should be finished and I walk around and I check. I'm going to have my pen ready and I'm going to go, that's beautiful. I really like that, eh? I'm not going to focus on the ones that are wrong. I'm not going to tell them, put a cross on that, that's terrible. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk around and find the one that I think is beautiful and I'm going to tick it and say, that's wonderful. And same thing again. So I say I probably would have done capital A first, but let's say my next line is going to be a capital A. I'm going to do the same thing again, guys. Now, capital A, we know it goes up, doesn't it? It's big. It's a capital. I've got my infant's voice going on here at the moment. So that means I start at my dotted lines. I'm going to reinforce that. I start at my dotted lines, and where I cross it should be right on top of that line. See, if I do it like this, it might get too small and end up getting confused with my other lowercase letters. Again, walking around the classroom, I'm going to find at least one of those that I can tick for that student and be able to do it that way. Now, the tricky thing with having lines like that, especially black and white or blue and white if it's in their books, is it's hard to see sometimes, especially for some of our kids with OT issues. They can't see that very well, which is why I liked to use blue and red. I like to have the red dotted lines and the blue straight lines, but they didn't necessarily have that in their book. So I like to use the dirt, grass, sky method. And if you haven't seen that, I'll show you some pictures of it in a second. But it's where the lines are coloured in brown, green and blue for dirt, grass and sky. And there's great templates for that. And then what I would do is wean them off that to the point where they would just have, like if I use my diary, for example, on here, just on one side, I would colour with a colour pencil just a little bit, like here. I'd scratch in brown, scratch in green, scratch in blue. So they knew across the line that would be where it's meant to go. And it's just a good way to go. Our capitals go up into the sky, or our G's go down into the dirt. So what I might do now is flip the camera and I'll move over to the Google Drive and I'll show you those resources with the dirt, grass and sky, and I'll show you some of the other things that are on there as well. If you're keen on seeing those different handwriting styles in Australia, you can go to Starfish Education, starfisheducation.com.au/handwriting-styles-Australia. And in here it'll show you some of the examples. I've saved this picture for you guys. There's New South Wales, whoops, Victoria, Western Australia, New Zealand, Queensland, South Australia, Tasmania. And they've got some font information for you there as well. I'll just close that one because I don't need that one now. All right, so this is the drive that I've got for you, and I'm just going to show you. Here's what I was talking about. So dirt, sorry, I'll focus. Dirt, grass, and sky. That's just a little image that's in there for you, but to show you an example of it, you know, that's what a capital looks like. It goes up into the sky. Now, if you're going to do it on the lines, this is whoops, open up. Now, I haven't made these things. I want to make sure people reference where these things are coming from. These are just things that I found and I use. So the phrase is up in the sky, in the grass, and underground. And you can get some handwriting cards to use those things from that blog spot there. But you know, if you go to Google, there's plenty around. I've saved some in here for you guys. There's some line cards. There's some more up here so the kids can see an example of how the letters go up and down. There's some plain ones there for them to practice writing their name on. So I can write my name, and you can laminate that and just use whiteboard marker. And here are some plain ones that they can write across. Personally, I don't like that bright color though. I prefer the soft, more pastel colors if you're going to use it like as a printout or laminated printout that they can write on again and again and again. But let's go through some of the resources that I've got in here for you guys. I'm going to start with my favorite one first. This is a handwriting program. It is from South Australia, but it's just so detailed. It's got everything in there from attitudes, skills and abilities, handwriting skills. So this is there's your listing there of your anti-clockwise letters, your stick letters, your clockwise letters, and then your diagonal letters. So I mean, if you want to follow that format, that's a good process that you can use. Letters in reception, and then this gives you a recommendation of order of letters that you teach in. So this is the canine order. And then it's got information in here about how to create a handwriting program. I still referred to this even last year when I was doing responsive programming because there's just such great information in this. So there's some information about grips, the different types of grips that you might see in kids in the classroom. Here's an example here of exactly how they should be sitting at the table, correct posture. Here's the letters. Now, obviously this will be different. This is South Australia, so you need to refer to the New South Wales version if you're in New South Wales. If you're in South Australia, just use this document. Linking and, developing letters before linking. It gives you some suggestions there for what to do. Pen lifts, how to lift. Handwriting in context. So, again, all these ones that you find here, things that have a no link, things that are not linked, things that might drop in. And then I'm going to skip down. Joint construction is a good one there. Guided writing, how to do it. Assessment. There's just some great templates here for assessment. So it talks about speed and fluency, aesthetic appeal, the consistency, and then these have got different assessment techniques that you can use and observation guides. These are just so beneficial, guys. You go in, you can write annotations, use their name. It's got examples. Here's your observation guide. So there's your letters. You can just go in and tick and put notes. Put some comments, tick, 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 comment, comment, comment. This one's for year 3. Tick, 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 comment, comment. And a whole class audit that you can use as well. And then evaluating the program. Like, there's just so much stuff in here that's really useful, guys. Here's an example of how I used to put together a program. So I had this, and then with pen, I would tick off the weeks that I'd done that, and it would go in my program. And then there's my Monday to Thursday guide. This was with oh my gosh, what did I have, 2013? I think I had year 2. I think it was year 2 or a 1-2. So when it says CC, draw C, moon, it would mean do capital C across the top row, a lowercase c on the second row, and then they would draw the letter C and turn it into a moon. And then if they had finished early, they could write the word cat 6 times on there. That was on Monday. But then on Tuesday, they would do whiteboard work. And then on Thursday, they would do doubles. So double capital C 6 times, double lowercase c 6 times. They'd do a C caterpillar. So like C over and over and over again, join it up, make a caterpillar. And then from there. So this is in there for you guys to have a look at if you want to see. There is also a handwriting context overview. Now, again, this wasn't made by me. And my apologies, but I cannot remember where I met Sharon from, but she shared this with me, and it's just got some amazing information, and hers is from New South Wales as well, and she's connected it with digital technologies. So I'm just going down to the part here, sorry, that I was looking for. So here's some samples about kindergarten, and then she's got some links in there and some pages, which I'm trying to get closer to so you can see. Those are beneficial as well. Now, this one I'm going to show you. This is a rubric that I picked up at a school I worked at, and it is older, but I still think this is applicable. It's still beneficial. It's not like handwriting really hasn't changed too much in the new curriculum, and our expectations haven't really changed too much when it comes to handwriting. And this is just a good way of scoping out where your kids are sitting and giving you a nice guide on your expectations and keeping them consistent. So, I mean, that's there for you if you would like to use it. This is another picture of posture and grip. This is the picture that I always used to stick in the front of my kids' handwriting books. And then if you go into these, there are just sheets and sheets and sheets. These are good things that you can have laminated in reading groups for the kids to do. And I say laminated because, you know, you don't want to have excessive paper. But whiteboard markers don't always work the best on these things. You can get a pencil from an art shop. It's called a Chinograph pencil, just like a whiteboard. It wipes off afterwards, so they're really good to get. But I've got that also here, non-cursive, exact same sheets, but not cursive. So if you're trying to transition your kids into cursive writing, you could probably start with that sheet and then get this one to go straight behind it to move into cursive, and they can start to use tails and flicks and everything as well. This is just one of your standard charts that you can stick on your table. And one of these things here is good if you've got your learning intentions as well, reminding kids that these are generally always the learning intention when it comes to handwriting, shape, size, space, same, and slope. And it's just got the details there about, you know, what your expectation is. This is in cursive, so this would be a prompt for your older kids. There's just some basic template lines there for you as well, and some more template lines here for you. Whoops, open up into it. There we go. So those are just there for you as some resources that, you know, I think are beneficial to share. Another good thing that you can do too is have this as a template for like a reading group rotation. And if you have a sound of the week, then this just reminds kids exactly what they're meant to do in their book if they're going to go doing something independent. So the expectation is you go and do the date. You write the sound, you make a word with the sound, do a different word with the sound, and then do a picture. So you don't have to explicitly model this one up on the board, but they know what the formula is for doing some independent work in their book. And then it's good to see how different it is when they do it independently using this as opposed to when they're doing it explicitly with you at the board. So hopefully those resources are beneficial for you. I'm just going to throw a few tips your way before we finish up this video for today. I think when it comes to handwriting as well, you need to know your kids to know what kind of pace to go at. You know where they're at. If they are totally struggling with handwriting, then that's the reason you need to be doing it more. I think if you need to set aside that time, even if it's each day, really 10 minutes each day to get that fluency in their handwriting going, it will just improve everything else. If those kids are struggling to form letters, then they're going to struggle with everything else. It's like mathematics. If they struggle with addition, then they're going to struggle when it comes to multiplication. We need to build the foundations for those things. You know, when we go running, we do a stretch. This is your warm-up to it. If they struggle to create sentences and it's physically because they can't form letters properly, then you need to focus on forming letters as well. The time needs to be put into it. The argument that I get is, why do we need to learn handwriting? We've got so much technology now. Kids will never argue with you if you tell them that it will be helpful in the zombie apocalypse. If zombies come, you'll need to send messages to each other because there won't be technology. If they've wiped out all the technology in the world, you'll need to write notes to each other and they need to understand you. Usually when you say that, they get distracted and talk about zombies though. Okay, tips. Okay, so with handwriting, please don't think they all have to do it the same way. Of course, there's differentiation around those things. If they need pencil grip, if they need a hand grip, if they need a different board to write on, if they need a different size table, do it. If that's what they need to learn, do it. Give them those props. And just keep in mind those kids that do have OT issues when it comes to handwriting. They need to learn how to do this in a way that's not going to create strain on their brain or their hands. And the only way they're going to do that is practice. Practice, practice, practice. I started doing yoga like 3 weeks ago. Now, I danced my whole life up until my eldest was born, which was, she's about to turn 9. So I haven't danced for a long time other than school stuff. But I've been getting into yoga now just to be sort of fit and mindful. And 3 weeks into it, my muscle memory is kicking in from all those years of doing it. But, if I don't warm up before I do it, I'm going to hurt myself. And the same applies with this. So when you are modeling, make sure you take the time to model upright, model flat, model yourself with a pencil and write it. Do it in different ways. The blackboard, the whiteboard, the interactive whiteboard, it doesn't matter. My kids knew how frustrated I got when the interactive whiteboard would stuff up and glitch and it would lose collaboration because it was no flow to it. I ended up just giving it up and going back to the whiteboard anyway because it was smooth, it was consistent, and it's how writing is meant to be. When you're handwriting, you don't necessarily need to stop all the time because there's been a glitch. So if kids are having trouble with their pencil grip, you may have seen this before, but the tissue trick. So you get a bit of tissue, fold it up till it's, whatever thickness you need for them. But the rule is you have to hold it with 3 fingers and then, I haven't got a pencil with me, and then you hold your pencil. So, or at least the 2 fingers, I realized, sorry, not 3 fingers, 2 fingers. Now I'm holding it, I remember what it was. So the tissue has to be held and then they have to write. So that way they're not trying to lift up and do this the whole time, and it strengthens the right muscles for what they're meant to be doing. So that in the hand is a good trick. Be mindful of your lefties as well because they're going to find it different considering they've got the same book as all the other kids, and they're going to have to be rotating their book a different way as well. Those kids who struggle, completely struggle, I would say let them do it with a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker and take a photo and stick it in their book and transition them over to writing. Give them that chance to succeed on the whiteboard because we know it doesn't take much to put a mark onto a whiteboard. It's less use of the muscles, less pressure, and it's easier for their body to physically cope with the situation. So you start with a thick texture, move on to a thin texture, move on to a thick pencil, and then move on to a thinner pencil, and give them those steps to be successful. Handwriting should easily be succeeded? Be successful for all of our kids because we can set them up with everything they need to be good at it. Another thing is if you do homework, if your school is someone who does homework, I would chuck a handwriting line in there, a line that they need to copy. That's it, because they don't need parent help to do it. It's independent work. They can feel successful when they do it, and it's from what's happening in the classroom. It shouldn't be a struggle to do it. Chuck it in the homework, make it something to do. It reinforces handwriting at home. The parents can see how their handwriting is going as well, so that if they see that there's some struggles in there, they can go, hang on a second, they're using the iPad too much or whatever, we need to do some writing, and it will support you in the classroom as well. I'm just checking my notes now. I think I've covered all my notes that I had on there. So, like I said, I firmly believe handwriting should be something that we consistently do. We have too many kids going off to high school that don't know how to write, too many kids that go off to high school relying on their technology too much to communicate their ideas, and there needs to be a good balance when it comes to this. And you never know when the zombie apocalypse is going to come. So I'll leave it there, but if you've got any tips as well that you think would benefit our other educators that are watching this video, please put them in the comments below. If you found any of these tips helpful, thumbs up is always appreciated. I like the feedback. Feel free to share this with anyone, and I'm going to leave it there. So I'll put my subscription button down below. You just hover over that, click to subscribe. I'll put another one of my videos at the top there for you to enjoy, covering up my coochie Kobe there, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks. Bye.